Good evening and welcome to all to this session of MEG5. Today we are starting with block 2 and it is classical criticism. This block is mainly based on the classical critics, and during that time the famous classical critics were Plato and Aristotle. So this whole block is based on their theories, and the most prominent of those two theories are Plato's theory of mimesis and Aristotle's theory of tragedy. Now, at the time when Plato and or Aristotle were at their peak, that is, they were in Greek. At that very same time, their contemporaries were Horace and Longinus. They were in Rome, and they all form a part of classical criticism in ancient time. Now, this blog it deals with these two theories only. So, now I am starting with Plato's theories. Now, I have taken three topics, though the topics are different, but on the surface they appear similar. And but when we go deep within it, then we can see the distinction between them, though it is of a very minor distinction, but it means a lot. So I've tried my best to make you understand that difference, and I hope it will make you clear. And because mainly the question asked in the exams is regarding Plato's attack on poetry or Plato's hostility towards art. So I'm starting with Plato's attack on poetry because it is very frequently asked, and most of the content I have collected in this topic only. So in all the three topics, we might have similar points, similar discussions. So at sometimes it may confuse you, but after the class, when you will go through them, you will realize that it has a difference. So I'm trying to elaborate it. So to start with Plato, let's have some background of him. We know that Plato was a well-renowned Greek philosopher, and he was the disciple of Socrates, who himself was a very great philosopher of his time. And they were so much popular during that time that their theories, their all the teachings, they are till date in consideration. Plato was born in 427 BC in an aristocratic family, and he was the fourth kid in the family. His family was very influential, and because of that, he had some instinct of that aristocratic outlook, which he has depicted in some of his works. As he was a very scholastic scholar and excelled in philosophy and mathematics, and he was also the first who gave a systematic shape to criticism. So the 4th century BC, it was the age of critical analysis and inquiry, because during that time, Plato and Shakespeare, they urged the masses to question. So because of that only, I think the criticism came into being. He was a genius and a multi-talented person. He was so much talented that he excelled in so many subjects, and few to mention are ethics, politics, education, literature, art, friendship and love. By friendship and love means that he was a lover of humanity. So he wanted everyone to live in harmony with each other. One of the major contribution of Plato was that his academy, the name of his institution is Academy, which was founded in 387 BC. It is considered as the first higher learning institution in Western world. And you know that along with his mentor Socrates and his student Aristotle, Plato helped to lay the foundation of the Western philosophy and science. And it is his academy which propagated these ideas of psychology, metaphysics, because he himself was very much interested in these two subjects. So he propagated these two subjects in his among his students in his academy. And moreover, his academy remained a model of institution of higher learning until 529 BC, until when Emperor Justinian of Byzantium closed it. Now, why he closed it? It was because he saw it as a threat to the propagation of Christianity. Because in his university, or we can say that in Plato's academy, there was the propagation of truth, the inquiry, the criticism was being done there, and in nature was also questioned. So he was putting forward the ideas and theories which were both illuminating and provocating. And so this was the reason that the emperor closed this academy, though it was after Plato's death. So as he was a very genius, so obviously he has written a lot about his views, his ideas, but basically which he wrote according to the literary criticism. Because we are dealing with literary criticism, so we'll focus mainly on the works which he did, where he did the literary criticism part, the poetic imitation, attack on poetry. And you know that he has written 36 dialogues. Dialogues in the sense that they were the they were in the conversational mode, and Socrates was the main character, main protagonist in his dialogues. And famous dialogues among them are Ain, Lysis, Symposium, Republic. But among them all, Republic holds the most highest position because of his its various reasons, because it was a very well defined dialogue where all the teachings, all the ideas, all the views of Plato are highlighted. And he died in 347 BC. Now let's have a brief of the Republic written by Plato. So it was basically written in Ethiopian literature, because at that time Ethiopia was ruling, and so whatever culture was there, it talks about the Ethiopian society. So it is the book where the Plato dreamt of an ideal state or a constitution. And in Republic, there's a marvelous blending from the resources of art, morality, and politics. And as I said, that it is from the dialogue, so it obviously adopts the conversational tone. And the major character I told you is this Socrates. Now, why is Socrates? Because you know that Socrates was condemned to die for corrupting the young minds. Because of his theories, which make them question the already accepted theories by our forefathers. Before Socrates, there were some established theories, but Socrates made them to question and put their opinions in that theories. And because of that, he was made to die. And because of that, also there was no written documents of the philosopher left. So to give a you can say a respect, a mark of respect to his master, Plato collected his work and passed to the modern world in the form of dialogues. And therefore he made the this Socrates as the hero, because he wants that he should be the mouthpiece of the Republic. And therefore he make him to be around the world, to remain alive for the coming centuries. That's why he made his this master alive through his dialogues. Now it is a verse form. In spite of being in a verse form, it is neither a hymn to the gods nor a tribute to a famous man, because it is a treatise, and it is to the on politics and not on morals. So whatever is written in the Republic, it is concerned with the education of young man in true philosophy. So he laid the rules of education, and it's the ideas of a perfect state or an ideal state, and he wants the philosophers to be in a perfection with the ruling philosophies. Now, what are the grounds on which Plato attacks poetry? The three moral grounds on which the on the ground which Plato attack poetry are the emotional ground, the moral ground, and the intellectual ground. Now, one thing is to be taken into consideration, that Plato was himself a genius and a philosopher, and he was also a poet indeed, and he enjoys poetry. Even you can say that his prose were poetic in nature. So one may question that if he writes verse, he writes in a poetic form, then why is he criticizing poetry? That why is he having some objections against poetry? This is to be taken into consideration. Now we'll see what are these. The emotional grounds. Emotions, as you know, they are concerned with our feelings, our thoughts. Plato writes, poetry feeds and waters the passions instead of drying them up. But before understanding this line, we have to understand the difference between philosophy and poetry. You all know that philosophy is concerned with logic and not the appearance of things, but with the depth of things, with the logic, with the rationality, and with what is right, or you can say it's directly concerned with the brain, because our brain is giving the logics, is thinking what is right and what is wrong. On the other hand, poetry deals with the heart and with the appearance of things and ambiguity. So these two fields are the opposite sides of the two disciples. And so, being a philosopher, Plato says that poetry has no space for irrationality and feeding the emotions. Now, reason is that philosophy is privileged rather than it is full of passions or emotions. And emotions are always in poetry, which he thinks is wrong on the emotional grounds. That poetry is feeding the emotions and not the brain, not the logic, and it is not giving any reason and any logic. So, how can a person think on the logical grounds? So, it is not to be included. And so, being a poet, a philosopher, he says that poets should have no space for feeding the emotions. Now, we see that poet writes when they are in a mood to write, and whatever comes into their mind, and they write. And moreover, they also write what is popular in the society, in spite of the fact that it is merely irrational and relying on emotional sentiments. That they are right on things that which are controversial and which people will give them business. So they are least bothered about what is the effect of their poetry on the society, and they have no concern whether it will give a positive impact to the audience or it will demoralize them. And so they write what is to be sold and what is in the society likes it. And you all know that we can't write poetry like we have to do mathematics, that okay, this is the rule, this is the theory, we imply it and the problem is solved. So poetry is the outcome of our thoughts, outcome of our feelings. So it is just that when we, it is like a divine knowledge and we have no connection with what we are learning. We don't think logically, we just write, and it's a spiritual knowledge that we write something we know or something comes in a mind and write it down without thinking of its impact on the society or on the feeling of emotions. It's that just okay, I have written the poem, I like it, it suits my emotions, I'm very much happy with what I have written, so it's correct. I don't bother whether it is liked by somebody else or whether the society will accept it or not. So it is also sometimes means that it may sometimes excite us, or it may sometimes be uncontrolled, some that the society gets provocated by reading that poem, or there are agitations all over. No, we are not bothered about it, the poets are not bothered about it, but they are writing it. And also that they invoke pity and fear. Now poetry, as you know, when we are reading a poem, sometimes we feel happy, and sometimes we, when we are reading a poem, our tears start trickling down. Why? Because something pathetic has been written in the poem and we are feeling we feel attached with it, and we feel our emotion, we can't control our emotions. So being a philosopher, Plato disliked it. Being a logical person, he would have no space for pity and grief, but he says that we should have logic and reason. So on these issues he criticizes poetry and emotional ground. So what all these has written, these are Plato's views that he has expressed, that why poetry should be criticized on the emotional ground. Now on the moral grounds, so morality deals with the high thoughts. So, and on why he has said that on moral grounds poetry should be criticized, because it is not fulfilling our moral requirements. You all agree with it. They humanize God. Why? Because poetry in that era, in Plato's time, it humanized God, and it so being a philosopher, Plato was against it. He says that in every region it is moral to humanize God, to talks about God so worldly, so much openly. So let them be at their own place, their own position. We can't humanize God. We have to make them be at their place and not perform all the immoral things which a human being does. Because in humans, both the virtue and vice are there. So we have placed our gods at a place where there's only virtue, no vices are there. So how can we depict our God doing some virtuous things? So this was criticized by Plato. Now, violation of morality. So morality was also violated by writing the poetry of that time. As we know that poetry is all about imagination, about physical things, but anything we think of, and sometimes poet violates the morality of the society. They write something which is a taboo to the society and which is not allowed in the society, and we can say that it to be wrong or right to the society. So poets, you know, they are breaking the laws of the morality, and because of that he criticizes poetry, because the poets write and sometimes the laws of the society are broken. Now according to Plato, that we have a great impact, the poetry has a great impact on society, but they are damaging them by feeding them with emotions. So in his point that there are so much emotions that by reading the poetry, the audience, they are so much involved in it that sometimes they are doing some immoral things also, and which is unethical also. And also poets write what is popular and worth selling it without caring the impact on society. That is a poet write which is popular, which we sees, and which his audience or reader want to see. He speaks what could be sold, what could he sell. So in this scenario it is immoral. Let me quote a very relevant example from our present situation. We all love to watch movies of our favorite, and we want to listen to the music, follow the fashion trends of our favorites. Yeah, so it is in all accordance to our choice that they change accordingly, or to say there has been a tremendous change from 70s love songs to 21st century rap songs. So all of them give what is being sold, what is being liked by the audience, what they love to see or hear. And this all we can see like the all the like our ancient movies, our 70s movies, our 90s movies, and our 21st century movies, they have evolved a lot depending upon the likeness of the audience, about the likeness of what they want to see, what they want to hear. So everything has evolved in the same way, and it has in turn bringing it has in turn brought immorality in the society, because all the moral values have degraded and they have not kept up to the mark. Now, in spite of the fact that poetry is admirable, okay, it is admirable, it is very much like attractive, yet it has no public benefit, because it is of no use in the eyes of Plato. It is not benefiting and it is not beneficial for the society. Then it is of no good. When it is not doing any more upliftment in the morality of the society, and therefore it should not be in the society, and therefore it is criticized. Now, the intellectual grounds. Intellectual, as you mean the something related with logic, with reasoning, with rationality. So do you think poets have any connection with the reason or logic? No, not at all. It has connection with feelings, with emotions, with violation of morality, and writing about something out of the box. So it has no relation with truth, just an imitation of appearance and not the truth of things by seeing them rationally. So appearance here means that a poet writes what is appeared to him without thinking or without going into the depth of it. Let us suppose this whole universe is the appearance of reality. God thinks about the world and he created it. He created a copy of reality, that is his own thought. So this copying the copy is the world. So world is the copy of reality, and now you are copying the copy. Understand that this world is the copy of the thought that came in God's mind, and we are copying it. So it is twice removed from reality. Or to say that reality was in the mind of the creator, that what the world would like be. Then he created the world, that he made the copy of his thought. Now this world is the copy of the reality. Okay. Now what that copy was in his mind, and so we are copying the copy and not seeing the logic of thing. You are just concentrated on the appearance of thing. I have given the example of the world. Maybe Plato has given the example of a carpenter. So carpenter has seen the chair and he is making a chair, but he is not perfect in that way. And similarly, when a painter copies that chair and draws it on the canvas, there might be some creativity put in it. So that is also not true. So it is not the truth. So in that scenario, it is not fulfilling the intellectual grounds. So that's why Plato dislikes and disapproves poetry. Also, it is based on falsehood and unreliable knowledge. That means we sometimes exaggerate. So, which is not real. We are just feeding our emotions and invoking it. Even if we are not, we can't see the philosophy, it is based on the truth and not on the falsehood. So this is the difference, and that's why Plato is criticizing poetry. He strengthens his argument by saying philosophy sees the truth, yet poetry is merely focused upon appearance of things. So because poetry, when a poet writes, he is not concentrating on what he is writing, he is just feeding his emotions, letting his overflow of emotions. But apart from these three grounds, there was one more, the utilitarian ground, on which Plato criticizes poetry. He said that what is the use? How can we have a use of the poetry? Poetry is the product of futile ignorance. That we have already discussed, that the poet who imitates without really knowing what he is imitating, what he is demonstrating, both his lack of useful purpose and his lack of knowledge. Poet is not the real creator, but imitator. So Plato writes, there are three arts which are concerned with all things. One which uses, another which makes, a third which imitates them. Unquote. So here the poet stands at the lowest, for neither does he use nor does he make. He merely imitates. So poetry can serve no useful purpose, no practical purpose. It must not be a part of school curriculum. Why? Because if it is not fulfilling any of the useful or practical purpose, it should not be in our school curriculum. So to conclude, we can say that Plato attacked poetry, and his attack has caused more misunderstanding than light, because there were very controversies regarding it, and this controversy was later refuted by Aristotle. During and after Renaissance, Puritans cited him as an example in their attack on poetry, and lovers of poetry accused him of a denial of the value of art. So it's obvious that when there is a criticism, there are some against it and there are some in favor of it. So those who were against it, they criticized Plato, and those who were in favor of Plato, they were the ardent followers of him. Nevertheless, Plato's views were conditioned by his age and by certain specific circumstances of his time, and therefore his contention is not of universal application, because it has some loopholes and it was all Plato's views, and so it is not of his universal acceptance. And he ends his charge against poetry by saying that in an ideal state, quote, no poetry should be admitted save hymns to gods and panegyrics on him famous men, unquote. The poets are to be banished from idle state. So there was no place for poets in his idle state. So I hope I have made my points clear. Thank you so much.